Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for another Living Hope, our weekly journey to provide hope, inspiration, and education for those living with pancreatic cancer, sharing the real life stories of those really affected by this deadly disease and how they deal with it on a daily basis. With a couple of, we got a couple of expert fighters here. We got a couple of people that have been winning this battle for some time here. Roberta Luna is one of them. Welcome, Roberta.
Thank you. It's nice to be back this week and good to see everybody. And yeah, today I'm really excited. We have Christina Parrish with us. Christina was diagnosed in 2008 with stage 4 pancreatic cancer survivor. With pancreatic cancer, and describes herself as a survivor. Christina is also the founder of the Purple Iris Foundation. I'm doing the same thing because Paul's wearing a shirt. This is Ireland.
I'm wearing a shirt that says Ireland. She's saying Irish the whole time. I thought it's an Irish foundation. No, it's an iris, like the flower. Okay.
So sorry. Please be sure to correct me. I love that you describe yourself as a survivor. How do you describe a survivor? What is that exactly?
Well, I consider myself somebody that strives to thrive every day. But I survived something that, you become a survivor the moment you're diagnosed in my brain, because you're surviving. But when you have long-term survivorship, I think it's important to realize that you're thriving, no matter the struggles you have, but it's all in your mindset and, how you think about yourself. And Thriver, I think, kind of gives the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I might have to steal that.
You totally can. I think it's something that we as long-term thrivers, we are thriving because, we know what it's like to be in the mix, so to speak, of battling every day. But, you really have to be able to survive long-term. I think you have to start thinking of yourself as somebody that's thriving because you've made it through to the other side, and we need to celebrate those victories in whatever way we can. And so the way I call myself is it's more positive to me. So
no, and I totally agree, and we need that positivity, sometimes to get through this because it's unfortunate. And I really love that you say that you were a survivor from the moment you're diagnosed. A lot of people don't feel that way, but that is the definition of a survivor as far as dealing with pancreatic cancer. So
amen. I think it's important to not say everybody gets that gloom and doom that I was told I was going to die in 6 months, and I just found that totally just it wasn't okay. And so I had to kind of throw myself into a mindset that helped me just deal with the fact, oh my God, people are telling me I'm going to die. So you really have to, it was fight or flight, and the positivity mojo took over, and I credit that for still being here, really.
Yeah, and I think you have to look whatever that positivity is each day, just the fact maybe you were able to get out of bed, let that be your positive, because it is difficult when they tell you, go home. My doctor, the worst thing, but the best thing he did say was go home and put your house in order because you're not going to be here next year. That made me decide, no, I'm going to be here next year.
I'm glad to hear that, because that's exactly what I said. I'm like, I'm only got till Christmas. I don't get that it didn't register, and then it made me angry, and then it just made me want to beat it, because if somebody tells me I can't do something, then I'm just going to show them. And that's kind of the attitude I took on. It took me a few weeks after some denial, but to get on that train. But you have to. You can't. For me, I just couldn't sit there and just die. It wasn't an option.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're a lot alike. I'm the same way. You tell me I can't do something, I'm going to go do it just because you told me I couldn't, right?
Well, it's funny because I've been talking a lot about mindset, and people have asked me about my mindset during cancer, and they're like, well, how do you stay so positive? And I'm like, well, how do you not? I said what I was doing wasn't working, so why not, just I'm surviving. And I think it's your own journey, so you get to describe it however you want. We can't I tried to not listen to the people telling me I couldn't and just do what I know I could do. And that was the only thing I could do, is find the right place for me to go for treatment that took care of my entire beingness.
Yeah, exactly. So do you want to share with us how your journey, actually how you began? Because it is very interesting, I think.
So I was, so probably about 5 or 6 years before I was diagnosed, I started having chronic stomach issues, digestive issues, from eating to, I mean, all realms of it. And I just thought it was stress. So I started popping Tums, and, it started getting worse and worse. I dropped, I think in the first year of having these issues, I dropped like 60 pounds. I mean, I was barely 100 pounds soaking wet. And I was at work. I mean, I was a workaholic. I worked 80 hours a week. So I just chalked it up to stress. And finally at work, I was sitting there and I just started crying. I felt so bad. I felt like I was dying. And I told my boss, I said, I'm not going to be in tomorrow. I said, I was on the phone. I did collections for a big bank. And I had to leave the phone call because I just was just in so much pain, back pain, gut pain. I mean, everything stopped working. Like the whole day, I didn't urinate or have a bowel movement. I mean, just everything was shutting down. And they got me in the next day and they did their scans, had the weekend. Of course, you don't want the weekend to wait for a diagnosis, but we had that. So I got a call while all my family was at work, and they told me to come in. And yeah, they told me I had a huge mass in my pancreas and numerous lesions in the right lobe of my liver. And that's that all in a week's time. I went from just not feeling great at all, thinking it was just, I was thinking it was a stomach flu. But I did have an incident where I was working out and I stretched on a Pilates ball and I could actually feel. So I was so skinny. I mean, I was like Skeletor. I could feel something protruding underneath my rib cage. And I was like, oh, that must be nothing. And this was probably 6 months before I was diagnosed. So um, it came on hard and fast, but it had been there. And I ended up finding out from my oncologist that I had the slow growing kind of pancreatic cancer that just kind of crept up on you, but it was harder to treat and get a handle on.
What test did they do to confirm that it was pancreatic cancer, to even look for that?
So we did the realm. We did ultrasound, we did a CT scan, and they took blood work, and it was the CT scan that showed all the fascinating stuff. A big golf ball size tumor in the middle of my pancreas, to literally my whole liver. Just, I mean, it was like looking at, I mean, we call them bloodsuckers up here, but all over. I mean, there was more lesions than liver in the right lobe. So.
And did they do a biopsy or anything to confirm?
So it took me 2 weeks to get in for a biopsy, and I had no idea what that meant. So they did another ultrasound to make sure they could see where they needed to go. And so the ultrasound was one of the most painful things that I'd ever done, because they don't do it on they didn't do it on my pancreas tumor. They did it on my liver lesions. And so they had to go all the way over to the right side, but they started in the middle of my ribs where the two rib cages come together. And it was like this little snake thing that they had to carefully go around the rib cage to where the lesions were. And then they had this little claw that went and then brought it back in. And they didn't deaden me enough. So that was pretty traumatizing, but that's how they confirmed it was adenocarcinoma.
And I found it interesting because I did read a little bit about, what you'd been through and stuff. That who gave you your news of pancreatic cancer? To me, it was pretty interesting. I thought that was a little different. I hadn't run across anybody who got it quite that way.
Oh, for my PCP.
Yes.
Well, so she didn't confirm it. So she didn't call it cancer, but we had a conversation, and her son was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at a really early age. And she's like, Chris, and I told her to be frank with me. I'm like, what is it? I said, because you're telling me it's a mass. And she's like, it's probably for the most part cancer. And I had been seeing her for 20 years. And when she told me about her son, I'm like, I don't feel, I felt she was pretty spot on. It was just getting into the oncologist. I mean, they confirmed it, but it I knew it was bad. My body was telling me it was bad, and I trusted Jean. She was my PA for Dr. Garreau, and I knew it wasn't good. I knew it wasn't good. So her calling it, I was okay with that, because she was probably the only one in the first part of my journey that was actually truthful with me and upfront and honest, and didn't try to. She was
Sugarcoat.
just honest, and that's a hard thing to find sometimes, for somebody to be honest with you. So our relationship, she's no longer with my doctor's office, but I'll always respect her for being honest with me.
Yeah. And as far as the treatment, is your tumor, was it operable, or did you have to start chemo? What was your treatment?
So no, I opted for no treatment up here in Maine. Um, we're rural. Maine, all of Maine is pretty rural, even though most people say it's not. But so I knew that at the time in 2008, Jim's Tarceva was the cocktail of choice, the only standard of care. And that was 40 years old, and I was 40 years old. So there was no way I was doing chemo. And I went for 3 opinions, and the third one was Cancer Treatment Centers of America, Boston. They had very few clinical trials. I was inoperable. They wanted to shrink the tumor, but they didn't know if they could. And so I just remember seeing a place on a TV ad at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And next thing you know, I got my insurance verified, had the wrong kind of insurance to go there. And so you had to find a way to change that. And so one of my bosses where I worked, they found a loophole that if I change my address, I can change my insurance. So with the Bank of America standard of stuff going on, so that's what I did. I worked with the hospital. My boss got me a PO box in Zion, Illinois, and I changed my address to Zion, Illinois.
Yeah, it's sad, some of the hoops we have to jump through, to get the correct treatment or to get what you need.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
This was something that I was forever grateful. I call the people I worked with, they still are my guardian angels, because they move mountains for me. And I can't say enough about, between fundraisers and people just taking care of me, whether it was financially or just making things happen like that. I mean, between that and the community I lived in of Hamden, Maine, and my family, and just my best friend, everybody just came together to literally move mountains so I could get where I needed to go.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. And I think we must have seen that same commercial, because I remember seeing the commercial. I think it was with the
Peggy
survivor.
Kessler.
Yes, exactly. On the horse, right? Riding the horse.
Yes, yes. I actually got to meet her. Unfortunately, she passed away a couple years ago,
Yes.
but she is still a rock star in my heart, because she gave me hope even before I knew I had anything wrong with me. So
Yeah, I agree. I got the opportunity to meet her as well, and
you did.
yeah,
Nice.
people called us Mutt and Jeff because she's so much taller than I was. So
Yeah.
she would use me for her little elbow rest or something. Yeah, there you go. So what
That's
was?
great.
Yeah, she was a wonderful person, and I again miss being able to speak with her as well. So tell me a little bit about your treatment there, because their treatment is different than what you will get at a lot of other places.
Well, yes, back then when I started, yes. So I did what was called I did standard chemotherapy, which was FUDR with leucovorin, which was that's what my standard treatment was. But I did a clinical trial called Intra-Arterial Therapy, which is like a heart catheter, and it went. I was strapped down, and it's so instead of going to my heart, it went to my pancreas and liver, and it shot. I believe it was 40 times the amount of chemo directly into the organs, while the body only got normal chemo. So the organs, it was like a directed therapy, a targeted therapy, which I didn't know about then, but it was something that CTCA was doing in partnership with MD Anderson. And you had to have certain qualifications to get it, and one was no chemo. So I waited for 2 months to get my chemo, and so I started out on the intra-arterial therapy, and that was a 15-hour therapy where you just strap down and it just circulates in your body. And then on top of that, they gave me the FUDR and leucovorin. So that was one treatment, one intra-arterial every month, and the FUDR was 5 days, once every like 3 weeks. So depending on my blood work, I would go back, depending on how it was. Usually
Yeah.
I'd have to take a couple weeks off just to let it get back up again.
But too, don't they also treat you not just in that way, but in other ways as well?
I appreciate you saying that. So they treat the whole person, they treat the whole body, but they also didn't take care of me. They took care of my mom and my family, and everything I got to experience, they got to experience, except for the chemo. And so while I was doing my 5 hours a day, my mom was doing mindful beating and things like that. And I have a naturopath, a nutritionist, mind body therapist, which I've transitioned to more at home now because I'm here more. But yes, acupuncture, chiropractic. I was a mess from. I didn't realize how much of a mess I was until the chiropractor got a hold of me, and I was like, and so yeah, they treat the whole body, and truthfully, cancer is a whole body experience. It's not just the chemo. It's a lot of mental. For me, it was a lot of mental stuff to work through every day.
It is the good days and the bad days. So it was, it's good to have something that's there. And I know once I added, the natural to my own treatment, it seems like it made a big difference. I mean, my last chemo was in 2018, and it's because I went to, a holistic doctor, and they worked
Good.
together with my traditional, which I was very thankful for. So
It's an amazing partnership, and I wish more oncologists and doctors and stuff would realize that there's a great partnership in pairing these two, because if somebody's like, oh well, I had a slew of supplements that I'm still on. We just transitioned to different stuff because I'm 14 years older, but they always keep track of me, and they always give me what I need. And this is on the natural terms. This isn't a prescription drug. And still it gives me optimum health, still to this day. And I just wish more people would understand the good partnership that the two things have.
exactly. So you still have your tumor, correct? Or
No, so I have some lesions in my liver, but they don't light up with a PET scan. But my pancreas, I had probably, what was it when I stopped treatment? I think it was like a centimeter I had left. And when we went on a chemo holiday in like January of 2012, they're like, you're not having chemo for 6 months. And I was like, what? It's keeping me alive. They're like, you've had way too much. Let's see what your body does. Well, I thought I was having gallbladder attacks about 3 months after. It was my pancreas shriveling up. So so the only thing that's active that you can see is the literal head of my pancreas, and the rest just looks like a pancake. But the centimeter mass is gone too. It all just, so it's like dead weight in there. She
wow,
still works, just
differently, right?
yes, yeah. So I've had to come to peace with that, and I finally got on some great supplements. Enzymes, I mean, that I can take and work well.
Yeah. So you're not a diabetic then with this?
No.
Awesome.
So I'm borderline because my body just looks at food and gains weight, but I've been working hard at keeping that at bay, because I know once you go on stuff, you're usually on it for life. So
Yeah.
I'm keeping that at bay as much as I can.
Good. Yeah, and I'm doing the same because I still have mine as well. So you have to kind of keep it at bay, right? And just
You do.
yeah.
Well, it's a fine dance once in a while of, oh, they're like, we really want to put you on stuff. And I'm like, let me get it down. I know I can do it.
Yeah.
So it's a nice partnership that I have with my primary care doctor and out at CTCA as well. But yeah, it's something most people assume that you're diabetic, but if you really watch your diet, you can really keep that
At bay for the most part, right?
right, for the most part. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I really want to talk to you more about everything that you've been through, but I also want to bring up before we have to go your foundation that you started and what you're doing. So, could you give us a little bit of information on that and how we
Yeah.
can contact you as well?
So the Purple Iris Foundation is something in 2012. We submitted paperwork for our official nonprofit status, and after some going back and forth with the IRS, we got our official 501c3 status in 2013. So we do patient assistance for people in Maine battling cancer, $500 every 12 months. It's an application process. You have to be 200% under poverty level, the federal poverty lines. But we pay household bills, and then we do monthly Hannaford grocery gift cards for the families.
Oh, that's awesome. And it's just for those people in Maine? Is that
Right now,
okay?
yes, because cancer is an epidemic in this state, and it financially people are pretty in the lower end of the income scale. So we all felt that it was good to take care of our people at home, and we embrace all cancers, not just pancreatic, because I couldn't see discriminating for pancreatic. There's a lot of pancreatic organizations out there. We're usually the first line here for pancreatic, and then I send them to our other organizations. But we really felt the need that we really needed to help people with all cancers.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that's really amazing. And is there a way that people can get in touch with you for more information?
Yes, so www.purpleirisfoundation.com. And we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're on Twitter. I'm not on there that much, but LinkedIn. So just send a message, and it's usually myself or my sister that answers those messages. So we're pretty much just a small group of people working to make a difference in Maine.
Well, and I think you are, and I thank you for that. And I want to thank you for joining us and sharing your journey. Any last pieces of advice or words of wisdom before you go?
Well, second opinion, second, third, fourth opinion. It's worth always, if you've got a cancer diagnosis, find the place that's best fitted for you, because it's a good partnership. Find a good partnership. But I believe in as many opinions as you need to find the place that you feel comfortable being treated.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And again, thank you for being with us. And I hope you'll come back again. I just
I
love
would
to keep talking
Roberta.
to you.
I could probably talk to you forever.
I think we really could. And we end each episode with a African proverb, and it's as long as you say my name, I shall live forever. Today's Living Hope I want to dedicate to Peggy Kessler, since we've been talking about her, and she's been a great influence on both of our lives. And
Absolutely.
I loved her dearly, and her teasing and just her fun and
just her way.
Yeah,
her
positive.
way.
Somebody had a very, very positive attitude. So I'm glad that she had a great effect on both of us. And just want to thank you again for being here. And
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
we'll do it again, I hope. So thank you.
I hope so too.
Take care. You're looking great.
Hey, you too, Roberta.
Well, there you have it. Another great reason to tune in each and every time to our weekly journey that we call Living Hope, designed to provide hope, inspiration, and education for those living with pancreatic cancer, sharing the real-life stories of those really affected by this deadly disease and how they deal with it on a daily basis. And if you're having trouble dealing with it or know somebody that is, there is a number to call. Lots of numbers. We've given out several. We'll give one again today. Call the patient services here in Southern California at 877-2-PANCAN for the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. For the OC Talk Radio Network, I'm Paul Roberts, thanking you for joining us, hoping us you'll share this story with others. And hug somebody today. There's a thought. Join us again next week as we stream live from the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.